Are we live?
Hi everyone. We are talking about EB-1A Strong on this live stream. We just started our second 6-week cohort, so we're off to a good start there. We're starting to put together a waiting list for our third cohort, which will probably start in about 7 or 8 weeks from now. The first one went great, and so we're really happy to expand the program. During this program, we're taking you through what profile building should look like, and at every step, figuring out whether a particular criteria works for you, what some opportunities are within that criteria, how to network, how to build your profile, and how to generate a claim. So the main focus of this program is to genuinely generate a claim around your accomplishments and around your work. We are targeting more senior level professionals, so mid-career, senior, people who have already a strong claim to having technical expertise, a reasonable claim for showing that they are either rising or have risen to the top of their field. This course is not really appropriate for junior professionals at this time. Junior professionals should focus on a much broader array of activities and really building the foundation for them to be able to build on an EB-1A profile later. But this is for mid-career and senior professionals who really want to solidify their profile and qualify for EB-1A relatively soon. I think a lot of our cohort members are targeting building in about 6 months. Some are targeting a year or 2 years, but most are targeting within that time frame because all of them do already have a reasonable claim to like a really high level of technical expertise, a reputation for excellence already, working at top companies, doing some really interesting original work or innovation, those kinds of things. We found that this format works really well. The first cohort went really well. It came about after we did some experimentation with the format in the 6 months prior to holding that first cohort. And everyone gelled well and worked together well. So everyone's kind of generating opportunities off of each other, as well as doing their own individual networking, reaching out to people they know, and so on and so forth. We have a lot of people who are going for authorship, but not everyone goes for authorship. Almost everyone goes for judge, but we have 1 or 2 that are not doing that. We talk about how to generate media acclaim more organically, where you're not paying for spots or paying for puff pieces to be published on random sites. And then we talk about membership as well and generating overall acclaim through that. I think our approach is really unique in that we really urge you to build a personalized profile. And while you can do some more generic activities that a lot of people are doing, you need a lot that are really individualized and really unique. So during this program, we really push you to do that work. This isn't, an out-of-the-box solution. This isn't a one-size-fits-all type of thing. This is something where we are pushing you to do the work and just guiding you along the way and making sure that what you're doing makes sense for an EB-1A petition. All right. Jason, anything to add to that or anything you think I should cover here?
Yeah. So based on what we've seen with past cohort members, a lot of them come out of the course with a bias for action. A lot of them join thinking that profile building is about doing certain activities, and then by doing the activities that everyone talks about, they will automatically have a strong profile. So we try to get people to move away from this mindset of these are the things I have to do, and then I will have a strong profile. We try to make you think more about how you can make an argument for how you've risen to the top of your field based on your specific background, and how to approach professionals in your field to find those more personalized opportunities to showcase your expertise and to make an argument for yourself that does not look like you just relied on generic opportunities or even manufactured evidence.
Yeah. That's super important right now because, I review a lot of profiles. I see profiles come through our free assessment tool. I see consultations all the time. And there are a lot of profiles out there that look identical right now. And that did not used to be the case. It certainly wasn't the case when I first started my career with EB-1A 10 years ago. Over the last couple of years, I saw more patterns emerge where people were doing the same kinds of activities, mostly judging the Stevies or the Globies or things like that. But now there are a lot of profiles that look pretty much identical, where everyone's publishing in the same journals, they have the same memberships, the same kinds of judge roles. And the more USCIS sees of that, I think the more pushback we're going to get and the more skeptical they're going to be. Because the profile can't look too generic. If it does, you haven't really established that you individually have risen to the top of your field. And so you definitely need a lot of customization. So even if you have done some more generic profile building activities in the past, that's fine. We can use some of that. But you will need to demonstrate that you on your own merits qualify and that this isn't something that you copied over from anyone else. I do think that that's very important, especially it will become increasingly important over the next year or two. Yeah. All right. We can open it up to questions, so feel free to ask questions about EB-1A strong. Feel free to also ask questions about EB-1A trends or the criteria. I'm happy to answer anything EB-1A related. I was going to mention something else. Oh yes. So the USCIS announced some new numbers recently, and it does look like there is a drop in EB-1A approvals. It's not a shocking drop, like it's in line with historic numbers, historic averages, and all of that. But people will ask me all the time if I've seen this kind of drop, and I will admit I'm actually a little bit surprised to see the numbers because I haven't observed this in Waypoint's cases or in a lot of the other cases that I've been consulting on. I haven't really heard this report from other firms. And so I'm wondering if the drop in approval has more to do with the people who are either self-filing or who are filing like particular types of profiles where USCIS is questioning these more generic activities. I don't have a firm handle on what the trend is at the moment, but I wouldn't panic by the numbers because most people that I've talked to and I myself haven't really seen an increase in scrutiny or seen a drop in approvals. So it's very interesting to me to see the numbers come out. And I think I'll know more about that over the next quarter, over the next cycle. But yeah, don't panic about it. I get a lot of questions about that. I will also mention I've had consultations now with a lot of people who saw some random post about profile building and it caused them to look into EB-1A, and now they're looking at EB-1A and wondering, is this right for me? A lot of them are actually really, really qualified right now. And I've had an increasing number of consultations where I'm not recommending EB-1A strong or any kind of profile building. Maybe I'm recommending that they get 1 or 2 judge opportunities just to round out that particular criterion because they already have some things that can be used, but not things that I know USCIS will rubber stamp right away. So adding just a couple of those rubber stamp items is really all they need to do for profile building. And so if you are a really senior level professional, if you're holding some kind of leadership role and have been like very clearly recognized for your expertise, your high position, and your leadership in the field, you may very well be qualified for EB-1A and not need to go through any kind of profile building program. I've talked with an increasing number of people this week who I think became aware of EB-1A through a lot of people who are promoting the profile building programs. And again, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Just because profile building programs are out there doesn't mean that you yourself need them. I was just talking with Alexander this week, and we both saw a couple of profiles where we actually think the person had a better EB-1A profile before they did all of the profile building activities, and we're considering dropping almost everything they did over the last year for profile building because they did all of the generic things, and they actually had a really strong claim even before doing all of those. So it can go both ways, where sometimes it's an unnecessary thing, but also something that can kind of hurt you. Sometimes you need to do profile building, and so I think that's where an attorney can step in and tell you if you really need some of these things or not. I really like a lot of the profile building stuff that's out there. It's really promoting information about the topic. There is a lot that is helpful. There's a lot that's accurate. There are also some things that are really sketchy and really inaccurate. So keep in mind, if someone is just doing profile building and nothing else, they're not an immigration lawyer, they're not doing other aspects of immigration practice, they do have a really narrow lens. And so you should talk to multiple people, including at least a couple of lawyers, when deciding whether or not you should go for certain activities. It's really important to inform yourself and not just listen to one single source of information. So I will definitely promote that to all of you. So even if you are following a lot of these profile building programs, also follow a couple lawyers, also get a couple case assessments. Make sure that you are getting a full picture of where you are at as an individual and what activities will benefit you.
There's some questions.
Okay.
Caesar asks, I would like an example of guidance to build a profile for a civil engineer that is currently working building wastewater management plants. I've seen a lot of generic profile, but what different activities can this person do?
Yeah, so that is the complicated thing with EB-1A profile building. Everyone wants to see the example, and that's why the generic profiles exist. Generic profiles exist because they have worked for other people in the past, and you can copy over those activities, and maybe it will work for you too. Of course, I caution against that because the more USCIS sees them, the less effective those generic profile building activities become. So you do need to build something that is unique for you. So I don't have an example for this very particular field of expertise. As far as guidance is concerned, I would encourage you to look at what other impressive people in this field are doing. Like if you look in your network on LinkedIn, professionally in other places, at your university or your alma mater, look and see what other people are doing. Do they publish in certain publications? Do they speak at certain conferences? Are they members or active proponents of certain groups or organizations or activities? Do they all speak in a certain way on a certain topic and are involved informally in some group? You want to definitely be in the room if that's the case. But figure out what's impressive to them and what they all kind of admire about each other. And then try to do some of those activities. Because you will know at that point what the good publications are, what the good activities are, what the good groups or memberships or organizations are. You're going to be able to get a better idea of that, I think, than any lawyer or anyone who is guiding you on the way for profile building. Now, for my role, I can take a look and see what you have. I can say, okay, this group doesn't appear to qualify for membership, but maybe they can generate some acclaim for you, or maybe they can give you opportunities to do this, or that. I can tell you if a particular publication is going to work for authorship, like that would be fine too. But I don't have the subject matter expertise. So this would be me more pushing you to get that information and telling you what information you need, but having you leverage your professional network to actually build the profile and build those connections.
Ola asks, is it worth going with EB-1A in order to not wait for the time backlog? What is the current trend?
Yeah, this is a really tricky question. So I've certainly seen a lot more rest of world nationals, so anyone not born in China or India. A lot more of them are interested in EB-1A now. EB-1A is a really, really high standard, and so I think the reason that a lot of Chinese and Indian nationals will qualify is because they have already been here working in the US for so long, stuck in the backlog system. Many of them are already super senior level professionals, have made really important contributions to the US, and have a lot of these markers of acclaim. So it's a good fit. Most of the rest of world nationals I work with, though, are either abroad and haven't made contributions to the US, or they are students or recent grads from U.S. universities, or they've been working here for a couple of years, but don't have necessarily a long career. For anyone in those groups, it is definitely harder to qualify for EB-1A, and so you would need to do profile building. The question then becomes, will the profile building take longer than the EB2 backlog? And it's not a question that is a one-size-fits-all answer. Like I work with rest of world nationals all the time who might be able to build a good profile in a year. For them, I think it is worth it because the EB2 backlog is probably going to take 3 to 5 years. And so you do definitely shave time off by going for EB-1A. But you do have to keep in mind that profile building is hard work. So you will be putting in extra hours, extra time. You will be doing a lot. And so you have to be willing to do that. And the trade-off is like 1 year of crazy busyness versus waiting 2 to 3 more years in the backlog and doing a normal pace of work. There are a lot of rest of world nationals where I think they will take 5 years to build a good EB-1A profile. And so I'm saying like you might as well just go for EB-2 and IW at that point in time, or even just PERM at that point in time. I don't think it's worth it for most recent grads who don't have long distinguished careers before coming to the US. Most recent grads should not go for EB-1A if they're rest of world. They should go for EB-2 and IW or for the employer-sponsored PERM. For people who are abroad and who haven't necessarily made contributions to the US yet, it's kind of a toss-up. So it really depends on where you are at in your career and how much acclaim you manage to generate internationally or in your country. For mid-career or senior professionals, I still think it's good to file the EB-2 and IW and get the priority date. But then you're kind of in that first group that I talked about where if you can build the profile in a year, now you're just weighing what the time and the cost-benefit analysis is going to be. So it's something to look at. It's something to be aware of and look into. I don't end up recommending it for most people, but I do mention it as an option for some people. It can be better because then you're not stuck. But the time trade-off is a bit uncertain as well.
I didn't see any other questions. We can talk briefly about some of the progress that past cohort members were able to make in a short period of time.
Yeah, so during the 6 weeks, we usually encourage people to make as much progress as possible. And then by the end, they should have an idea in mind of how much longer they need. So some people are ready to initiate the case right away after 6 weeks while they finish up a couple of final activities over the following months while we're prepping the case. Most people need some additional time, so they'll set a timeline of a matter of months after the cohort finishes. We've actually had people make really good progress during the 6 weeks. And usually that's not in the first couple weeks, not in week 1 or 2, but by week 3 and 4, people do have some really solid things underway. One cohort member got invited to be on the organizing committee for one of the top conferences in his field. That was really, really impressive. We've had a few cohort members get invited for keynote speaking engagements at some important regional and even some national conferences as well. So that's been good. Almost everyone has a couple of judging opportunities lined up by the time the 6 weeks is over, because that is something that we really emphasize, and you do need some volume of activity for the judge role criterion. A couple people have submitted their papers for publication during the cohort, although authorship does generally take longer, and so most people have outlines or ideas but are not quite ready by the end of the 6 weeks. And then we have some like high achievers who do the networking at volume, so they are contacting like hundreds of people every week, and those people I think are the most successful on a shorter timeline because they've managed to source dozens of opportunities during that very short 6 week period. And we're already filing cases for a couple of them. They're very, very, very strong cases. And the two people that I'm thinking about, they both have told me it's hard to stop now. So that I've told them it's enough. We can file your case. We don't really need any additional elements. We don't want additional elements at this time because then we'll just be constantly revising the file. And they've said, it's hard to stop. Like this can be a little bit addicting. And I think it's been good for both of their overall careers as well. And it should benefit them in the long run.
Yeah, I think we see that shift in behavior once people realize that it's about strengthening an argument unique to their own background and not really about checking off a list of activities, like doing those generic activities that everyone else is doing. And I think part of that just comes down to understanding what makes them have a start of a strong profile. Because we get a lot of people coming in who don't really understand what it means to have a strong profile. So they kind of assume they don't have any profile at all. And it's only when we provide more definition around what it means to have a strong profile do people realize that they do have a strong start, and then that just gets them going. Like they're much closer than they think they are. A lot of the people we get, at least.
Yeah, and we intentionally structure it that way. Like we just review LinkedIn profiles. It's not like we're doing a super in-depth, detailed profile review. But what we're looking for is people who have some kind of reasonable underlying claim, whether that's based on years of experience, company they're working for, certain technical details, certain projects. As long as they have something that to build off of, most people can surprise themselves with how quickly they can do it. They just need to do the networking. They need to find those opportunities. They need to get the ball rolling so that there's continuous momentum there.
Just a couple of questions. All asks, does EB-1A denial impact approved EB-2NIW that is in time backlog?
No, it would not impact the approved EB-2NIW. The only reason it would, for some reason, is if there are major contradictions. Like if you said your post endeavor for EB2 is this, and then you proceed to file an EB-1A that's totally unrelated, USCIS can go back and question it at that point, and they might reopen the EB2 and try to revoke it or deny it on that basis. The other reason would be for any kind of fraud or misrepresentation concerns, which are kind of related to the fact that there would be a big mismatch. But absent the mismatch or fraud or misrepresentation, absent any of those like really severe factors, there's no impact because they are considered two very different categories, and they don't interfere or impact each other in any way.
Bill asks, what is the best way to show the leading role criteria evidence for software engineers?
Yeah, so most software engineers don't really claim leading role. They'll claim critical role because it can be a leading or a critical role. You can claim leading role if you have direct reports, or if you have led a major initiative, not just a project, but like a major division or initiative or something important for the business. But most of the time it's easier just to claim critical role. You will need to show that you have been involved in a very significant way individually in projects or products or initiatives that have significantly advanced core aspects of the business. So this could mean that you're showing how you individually impacted something that has generated or saved millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. That's really great. You could show how you created some kind of product or were involved in some project that won the company major accolades or awards, or resulted in their ability to raise certain funds or be acquired at a certain amount. Those are just some examples. Other examples are if you are like the lead engineer on the most business critical process that the company does, and you are ensuring that the business stays afloat and it doesn't crash on any given day. That can work for critical role. The main thing to emphasize here is you do need to show your individual impact, and it's important that that individual impact is apparent to the higher ups in the company. You can't say that you did like a small thing for the company and claim critical role. It needs to be part of that overall acclaim kind of argument where you are a top expert, you are doing really important things, and the company is really significantly benefiting from your work. I will also say a lot of people forget there's another component to this criteria. So you have to show a critical role for a distinguished organization. So you need to show why the company that you are working for has a distinguished reputation. Sometimes this just means showing that they are a big name brand company in the US that everyone recognizes. Sometimes it's showing that they have significant market share, that they've won significant awards, that they are up and coming and have received a lot of media attention. There's lots of different ways to show a distinguished reputation, but it is a very important part of this criteria. Not every critical role is going to count because there's the company side too that you have to prove.
Great. No other questions.
Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, everyone.